the German troops who were occupying the country and the city. So they were bombing their ammunition dumps, railroads, convoys, bridges to prevent them from crossing rivers and that sort of thing. And the bombings got extremely bad outside the area, and every night, every day, and some days, and every night, waves of planes darkening the sky. And we went to our air raid shelter, which we had several shelters. One was a cave, one was in a basement.
You went to the cellar too.
We went to the cellar, and these bombing, and almost every bridge was destroyed in the city. The bombings got so bad that the mayor of Lyon issued an edict. All children
had to
be evacuated to the countryside because of the bombings. And people had to find other folks to take their children in. If they did not evacuate their children, the penalty was that you don't get ration cards, and you can't survive without ration cards. It was hard enough to get food with ration cards. So my parents had to find someone, and that someone was this lady for whom my mother had made clothes in the rooming house. And this lady and her husband and her son, who was just about exactly my age, they lived in a tiny village. And so my parents sent me there. The separation between us was horrible. I mean, to be separated from your parents and be in danger is the worst thing. And for months and months I lived with these people. And I was homesick constantly. I was crying. It was just awful. And then when we said goodbye to each other, I know there were tears in my eyes, and I know there were tears in my parents' eyes. And I did get to see them once in a while on some weekends when they came to visit me, but it was rare. So I went to this village. The village was a small one on top of a large hill. The village only had 500 people living there. And this lady was the director of the school. But it was only a 2-room schoolhouse. Basically, she taught the girls and a man taught the boys. And that was it. And as a director of school, she was given permission to live in the main... So this lady was the girls' school teacher, and there was a man who was the boys' school teacher. And her husband was... Okay. What my parents did not know when they sent me to this place was that it was really going to be more dangerous than having stayed in Lyon where there were bombings every day.
Do you remember how many Jewish boys and girls were coming out to the countryside?
I have no idea. I don't know, but the edict applied to all children, not just Jewish children. Applied to any kid. They wanted the youth to survive. And talking about youth, the purpose of me telling you this story is that as youths you should teach other kids, communicate that all of this war, the persecution of Jews, blacks, gypsies were deported, is a horrible thing. And we don't ever want that to happen again. So you got to tell your friends and communicate that this is an awful thing, and we don't want it to happen. Hate is terrible.
Of people because of religion or the way you look. That was the thing.
And by the way, in Lyon and in Marseille, I told you about the roundups. The roundups were conducted by the Gestapo. The Gestapo, in case you don't know this, were the German, basically secret police. They were very cruel, and they had the power to arrest anybody, and they surrounded the area, or they came to your door and knocked on it. They didn't like you, they didn't like your face, your papers were not in order, or whatever reason, you were arrested. And the Gestapo had that power, and they could kill you. And many people actually were shot and killed on the street or in their apartments. That happened to one of my father's parents.
Do you remember your closest encounters with the Gestapo?
Yes, and I'm going to tell you a couple of those episodes. That's a good question. So anyway, it was more dangerous because the underground headquarters were in this little village. The name of the village was Vourles, V-O-U-R-L-E-S, and the underground in French they call the maquis, and their purpose, they were really terrorists. They were good terrorists, though. What they did is from the mountaintop, they used to go and snipe at the German convoys as they came by the main road down in the valley. They blew up railroad tracks, they blew up trucks, they made a nuisance of themselves, okay? And I saw the guys carrying machine gun bullets and just going to whatever they were going to do. And so a lot of bad things happened to me living in that little village. The first one was I lived in their apartment, and one day, soon after I got there, we heard trucks and stomping, and it was the German convoy troops coming to the village. And we found out later they were coming to the village because they wanted to stop all the sniping. So they were coming to take revenge and to warn the town that you better stop sniping us or we'll destroy you. So we were in the room overlooking this town square, and we heard the trucks, and the other boy's name was John. The last name was Sabatier, and we peeked through the window, the curtains, and I saw these trucks. The first truck coming was an open back truck with a German soldier, and there were four of them with machine gun, one looking forward, one to each side, and one to the back. And then behind him came troopers marching, and you could hear them marching. And I was so scared. It was one of the most scariest things I ever went through. And then after that, there were armored trucks and more troops. And luckily, by then, everybody had evacuated the square. And so we were just scared that they were going to come and get us. But they kept on going. They went up through some small cobblestone streets. We heard shooting later, and then they left. We found out after they had left, we went out, you could smell the smoke of the gunfire. They had killed people on the street, men, women, and children, as revenge, and don't snipe at us anymore. That did not stop the sniping, by the way. So that was my first encounter with, not the Gestapo, but the German army. Now, we had other episodes. The young boy and I, Jean, we were playing in the courtyard one day, and we hear planes coming. And we looked up, we were playing with a ball or something. I had no toys, nothing. And we see a German fighter coming, chased by two Allied planes, shooting at it. And the plane gets almost right directly overhead, and it got hit. And it started spiraling, and smoke came out, and it crashed right at the bottom of the hill near the railroad station, because there was a railroad nearby. And so he and I ran down the hill to see the crash. And of course the pilot had died, and the plane was a wreck. I found a button from the pilot's uniform, and I took it. I wish I still had it as a terrible souvenir, but it got lost over time.
How old were you when you
I was
saw it?
7 years old. Okay, that was one episode. There was another episode that the man of the house, the husband of this woman, he was in the underground, and he had to, he was, among other things, a courier. and he had to deliver papers and things